Hello there. Welcome back to It's Going to Be Okay. If this is your first time, I'm so glad you found this. And if you've been listening for a while, thank you for being part of this space where we tell the truth, even if it's uncomfortable. So today I want to talk about something that many of us have felt that few churches openly address. And so let me get just before I get, there we go. I just want to make sure I have all my ducks in a row. Already, I'm getting poo poo. This out of the way. Put that out of the way. Okay. Today, we're going to talk about why doesn't the church or a religion in general talk about mental health? Now, I could be totally off. It could be just my religion that doesn't talk about mental health. So if you haven't experienced this, please leave a comment. I would love to hear from other people than just me because my experience and what I grew up in was they didn't talk about it at all. They didn't talk about depression, they didn't talk about anxiety, nothing. Okay, so they didn't talk about it. So if you've ever felt invisible, ashamed, or spiritually less than because of your anxiety, depression, or like me, bipolar disorder, trauma, or overwhelm, then this is for you. Okay. So let's just say it out loud. A lot of people have been hurt, not by God, but how mental health was managed in our faith spaces. So I was a young mom and I was going through a postpartum depression. And I had heard about it. I just assumed that it would not affect me at all. And of course, I had it. But my faith, you didn't take medication for anything like that. So I didn't get medication. I didn't seek anything like that. And now I wish I had because I probably would have felt a lot better. So a lot of people have been hurt, not by God, but by how mental health was managed in faith spaces. So some of us were told just to pray more, you need stronger faith, you must be opening a door spiritually, or worse, nothing at all. Like me, I wasn't told anything. Silence can wound just as deeply as bad advice. So when being taught over the pulpit, I just needed if I was going through something, then I just needed to pray more, or I didn't have enough faith, or I didn't believe, but they made me I was felt less than. And the truth is, for most of church history, mental health didn't have language the way it does now. Depression wasn't called depression. Trauma wasn't understood, and anxiety is often labeled as fear or sin. Anxiety is often labeled as worried. I worry about what's going to happen. But a lack of understanding doesn't excuse ongoing harm. And so I just, when I was thinking, I had a completely different topic to go over for this week. And I just felt led to talk about for this week. And so I hurried up and switched around something to get this prepared for for Monday's podcast. And so if you are someone who's currently that goes to church or is a part of a congregation and they don't understand, I don't know what religion would still not be a part of this and not approve of it. But if they don't have, I don't know, the support there for you, then you need to reach out because I can definitely be that support for you. If you quit going to church because you are suffering from depression or some kind of a emotional or mental disorder or anxiety, then this should give you hope that you can be a part of a congregation and be a Christian. You can do both. God is there for you, whether you're part of a congregation or not. Okay, so let's continue. One of the biggest reasons churches struggle with this topic is because of a false divide. The idea that something is either spiritual or medical. But scripture never separates us that way. And so we are whole beings, body, mind, and spirit. May God Himself, the God of peace, sanctify you through and through. May your whole spirit, soul, and body be kept blameless. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 23. Mental illness is not a character flaw. It is not a lack of faith, and it is not evidence that God is disappointed in you. If someone has diabetes, we don't accuse them of spiritual failure. If someone has asthma, we don't tell them to throw their inhaler away and pray harder. Right? We've never done that. Oh, Lord. Okay. Side note, my son called me and said, Mom, he lives in an apartment building about 5 minutes away, drive time, 15 minutes walk time away from here. He's like, someone's apartment is on fire. And I'm like, are you safe? He's like, yeah, I'm safe. And so he says, so he called back and said, okay. I said, do you need me to come get you? He said, no. I said, keep me updated. I'll come get you if you need me to. He said, okay. So he calls back and he said, they got the fire out. Now they're clearing out the smoke. So I said, do they know what started the fire? And he's no, but I'll let you know when we do. He just texted me and said that someone was hanging their clothes up to dry. Okay. And they had their clothes next to the heater and it caught fire. Now, from what I understand, they're not supposed to have heaters in these apartments. So, anyway, so I don't know what's going to happen, but everybody had to be evacuated from the building. Currently, it's 8 degrees outside. Okay, and my son went out without his coat on, everything. 8 degrees outside. Anyway, back to the podcast. So mental illness is not a character flaw. It is not a lack of faith. And it is not evidence that God is disappointed in you. If someone has diabetes, we don't accuse them of spiritual failure. If someone has asthma, we don't tell them to throw away their inhaler and pray harder. Your brain is an organ. It functions just like your heart. It functions like your lungs, your liver, everything else. Here is something that doesn't get said enough. The Bible is full of people who were emotionally and mentally overwhelmed. And I wanted to get this. Oh, I know I saved my place. Let me find it. Because I wanted to read the scripture aloud for us today. Okay. We didn't call it mental health back then, but what they went through and the effects of it is the same as what we see today. So Elijah, after a major spiritual victory, collapsed into despair. Let's read Kings chapter 19, verse 4. Actually, I'm going to read 1 through 4 to give it a context. When Ahab got home, he told Jezebel everything Elijah had done, including the way he had killed all the prophets of Baal. So Jezebel sent this message to Elijah: "May the gods strike me and even kill me if by this time tomorrow I have not killed you just as you killed them." Elijah was afraid and fled for his life. He went to Beersheba, a town in Judah, and he left his servant there. Then he went on alone into the wilderness. Traveling all day, he sat down under a solitary broom tree and prayed that he might die. "I have had enough, Lord," he said. "Take my life, for I am no better than my ancestors who have already died." So he had killed all of the prophets of Baal. And he got this note from Jezebel, who was just a spiteful and hateful woman, and said, "Listen, what you did to my prophets, I'm going to do to you." And I can't take it no more. I can't take it anymore. God, just let me die. How many of you have felt that, where you just keep going and going and you're doing the Lord's work and you're working and you take care of your family and you're just like, "I can't do it no more. I can't do it. Just let me die here. Just let me lay here and die." You know what? But God didn't rebuke him. God didn't shame him. God fed him. He let him sleep and he gently restored him. And David wrote the entire Psalms from a place of anguish. He didn't write the entire book of Psalms. Psalms 42:5. "Why, my soul, are you downcast? Why so disturbed within me?" There are lots of times when David he's just in a lot of anguish over different things that had happened in his life. And even Jesus himself experienced deep emotional pain. And John 11:35, Jesus wept. He cried. He was in the Garden of Gethsemane and he just bawled because he was just so emotionally distraught. So in Matthew 26:38, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death." If Jesus can name emotional agony, we can too. So when I was going through my divorce, I had never felt such betrayal like that in my entire life. I had been through some things in my life up to that point, but because when I was married to my boys' father, he was I was so in love with him, and I was in love with him, and I just I was just so heartbroken that when I found out he had been unfaithful to me, and I was just crushed. I was literally crushed, and I didn't know how to express that. I didn't know how to talk about that with anybody, and I fell into a deep depression because of the stress from it, and I there's this 4-day period after the initial conversation that we had with each other, and he left. There's a 4-day period. I had no idea what happened with my kids, and, oh, I completely forgot they have electric heat in those apartments, and that caught the clothes on fire. Okay, so anyway, and I don't remember anything. I was in such a deep, like, shock. Anyway, so I was in such an emotional agony. If I didn't have kids, I don't think I would have been here. I probably would have offed myself because I didn't know how to handle that amount of grief at that time, or that kind of a hurt. Oh, So why does the silence in talking about these issues still exist? I will say in my current church that I go to, now the church I grew up in, they didn't talk to about it. It was very old school, the church I grew up in. And maybe it was just because they were uneducated in mental health. I feel like a lot of the younger pastors today are educated in that and they know how are learning to deal with those types of mental health issues. They're seeing it and dealing with it. So why does this silence still exist? So honestly, mental health challenges the idea that everything can be fixed quickly. It it forces the church to sit with unanswered prayers, long-term suffering, and faithful people who still struggle. And some faith communities don't know what to do with that. They don't know what to do with an unanswered prayer. They don't know what to do with long-term suffering. They don't know what to do with their faithful people still struggling with the mental health. But there's also the fear of saying the wrong thing, the fear of liability, the fear of not having answers. But silence isn't neutral. Silence tells people, "No, this alone." And that's not the heart of Christ. Christ always got into the nitty-gritty, and he walks with you. Today in my soak, on our online Bible study, we did John. Let's see here. Let me pull it up here. John 14, verses 15 through 31. So it was that whole group of verses. And is that what we did? So today I chose the verse 27. I am leaving you with a gift, peace of mind and heart. And the peace I give is a gift the world cannot give. So don't be troubled or afraid. So this gives me a comfort that there's peace for me. Now, how do I get this peace? I get this peace by reading his word daily and praying daily. And there are some days when when I am feeling stressed, I don't know what to say because I got so much going on in my head. Because when mental health, you got so much going on in your head, you don't know where to start. And so you're just like, I can't concentrate. The lady that's over the online Bible study, she gave us these guided Bible or prayer prompts. So I don't know if you can see them. And when I can't think of anything, I do this. Dear Lord, I thank you for, and I write something. And sometimes I'm like, I thank you for waking up. It's very elementary. If I am having a very stressful day and I go very elementary because that's all I can handle. I worship you because I'm sorry for, please help. And you just fill in the blanks. I give to you my, and I receive your, and then it's amen. And sometimes that's all I can handle. Sometimes that is all I can handle. But you know what? If that's all I can handle, thank God, because he still understands my struggle. He gave me peace. He says, "Don't be afraid." A lot of times when I have anxiety, I get so afraid because anxiety is you anticipating what could happen in the future, good or bad. And I get afraid. And when I get afraid, I can't cope. So I have to go to my do or die self-care routines that will help bring me down to earth and draw me in and calm me down. And so that's how you get your peace. You have to go to your routines and go to the word and pray. because he is gonna meet you there. He will always meet you there, even when you don't feel anything. There's been so many times I have not felt a single thing, and I will still do devotion. I will still read the Bible, and I can't feel anything because of my mental disorder, but I know he's there. Okay, so what the church should be saying, or what we hope they are doing instead, is at the very least, the church should be saying this: you're not broken beyond repair. Medication can be a gift. Go see your doctor. Therapy can be holy ground. So you can see a therapist, and you can they even have Christian counselors now. So you can find one there. Faith and treatment are not enemies. So you can go get treatment. God did not give knowledge to man to be wasted. Why would God give man medical knowledge and then we can't go use it? I'm using it because I need it. God is not ashamed of your diagnosis. Carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. I say this verse all the time, Galatians 6:2. You cannot carry burdens that people are afraid to name. So, you got a burden, give it a name, and then pray. Pray. Okay, let me finish this, and then I'm going to tell my tidbit story. The church should be the safest place to say, I'm not okay. If you don't feel safe to say, I'm not okay, then there's an issue. Either you address the issue with your church, start praying, asking God, is this the right place for me? And I didn't feel safe in the church that I was at. First of all, because I divorced my husband who had been unfaithful to me. I had proof that he was unfaithful to me. And then my church put me down for that. And then practically disowned me because they didn't believe in divorce. But I'm sorry, he was unfaithful to me. And I had already went through that once with him, and I wasn't gonna go through it again. I wasn't gonna keep going through it over and over. He made it abundantly clear that he wasn't going to stop doing it. So, now, I once I went through divorce, was on my own, I started going through some things, and then I started trying to get help for how the feelings I had been feeling. And then I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And I was like, I'm not telling nobody this. I told my family, but I was feeling awful. And so then they were putting me on medication, and some of the medication was terrible. And it made I wasn't feeling nothing. I was just like flat, you know. And so we were trying different types of medication to see what would work and what didn't. And so now, over 20 years later, I'm at a different point in my life where I feel that I don't need the medication. And so that's been a new adventure, needless to say. But before I felt, when the pastor would call people up to say, if you have a mental disorder and you want to believe God to heal you, we want you to come up and get prayed for. I couldn't go up there because I didn't believe God could heal me. And I'm afraid to admit that. And so I prayed about it. I was like, God, why can't I believe that you could heal me of this? And because I had been so integrated for so long, that once I was diagnosed, once I started taking the medication, that I would be on that medicine for the rest of my life. That was so ingrained in my head. And when there were times when I felt good, when I first started taking my medicine, I would stop taking it, and then I felt horrible. So I would go back on the medication. And then I got to the point where I never missed. I never got off of it. I never not took it. Now, there would be some Saturdays where I wouldn't take it, but I took it every day. I got set into such a habit of being such a faithful taking it because I wanted to feel good. I wanted to be better. And I did feel better. I got to a point to where I was feeling like pretty okay. And then I took a genealogy, a genetic type test to where it it would tell people that the medicine that I'm taking, whether it was good for my body or not. And if it was good, fine. If it wasn't, maybe here was something that was probably a little bit better. And so there was one medication I took that now what I was taking, I said was, it's okay, but this one would probably be better. So they switched me to that other medicine, and man, it was like spot on. And I felt great. And I took that for years. So, but I prayed and said, God, help me with my unbelief. I think it was Paul. He had unbelief, and he's God help me with this unbelief. So that's what I did. I was like, God, help me with my unbelief. And I really didn't think that God was helping me with that. But there was a couple things that happened. And one was I saw this. My husband told me about this interview that Tucker Carlson had with the lady who had been put on medication when she was 15 for bipolar, anxiety, all kinds of stuff. And she spent her whole of her teenage years, young adult life, 30s, taking this medication in and out of mental hospitals, tried to commit suicide because she could not function. And it's her life story, and then her story, how she got off the medication and how she's dealing with life without it because it's better. Her life is better without all that medicine. And I was like, God, is this your way of telling me this is possible? I didn't know there were people out there in the world that took medication like this for years and years, and then they slowly came off of it. And then I ordered her book and I read her book, her life story, and I that gave me a little bit of faith that I needed to talk to my doctor about it. I wanted to try and wean off of my medicine. Last summer, I started that journey, and it's been hard. It's been really hard. So I would not, this is not me telling you to get off your medicine. If you're on medication, you stay on it. This is not me telling you to do that. This is my story about me being on it because I'm 53 now, and I know when you're on it for a long time, it messes up your organs. And I don't want to be on this. I need to learn how now, there might be times where I gotta go back on it, but I need to learn to live without it and see how well I'm doing without it. And I'm I feel like I'm doing pretty good. Now, the withdrawal symptoms were really bad. I felt I was like I was addicted to it. I wanted Every day I thought about calling a doctor and getting back on it. That's how I never thought that would happen, but I did. And then the other part was, so one of the medications that I took is one of the worst ones to wean off of, is the irritability and the short-temperedness. It's my poor husband. I've had to apologize to him more times than I can count in the last few months. But anyway, so that's my story. God gave me that little bit of faith and knowledge that I needed, that I could do this, and I couldn't believe it. I'm not gonna say, "Is this a healing?" The story's still being written, but I feel like it's a story of faith, giving me faith and believing that I can get this done. And it was just another part of my journey that I wanted to do and to talk about. So if you're listening today and you've been hurt by spiritual shame about around mental health, I want you to hear this clearly. God is not disappointed in you. Your struggle does not cancel your faith. Your diagnosis does not define your worth. Sometimes healing looks like prayer. Sometimes it looks like meditation or medication, I'm sorry. Sometimes it looks like boundaries, rest, routine, or support. And that's what I started out doing, was looking for some boundaries, looking for rest, looking for routines, looking for a support group. And sometimes it's all of those things. I had to find some organization in my life because I was going through some things. It's going to be 5 years, no, 6 years that I started this journey so long ago. And sorry, I started so teeny, teeny, tiny, small, teeny, tiny baby steps. And I have come so far from that time when I messaged my life coach asking her for a call. And because I didn't know what else to do. I didn't know what else to do. So the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. Psalms chapter 34, verse 18. God is close to your broken heart. If you are crushed in spirit, He's there. He is right there for you. We just need to reach out for Him. He's close, not distant, not frustrated. He is very close. So if this episode has resonated with you, I invite you to sit with it, share with someone who needs permission to breathe. If you are navigating mental health while trying to hold on to your faith, you are not weak. You are brave. It's so hard. As always, I want to remind you of this truth. It's going to be okay. Because not because life is easy, but because you are not alone and God is still present, even here. Anyway, if you're watching on YouTube, comment, like, and subscribe. If you're listening on Apple Podcast and Spotify, please leave a 5-star review for me. I really appreciate it. I love you guys, and I appreciate you. And I hope to talk to you soon. Bye.